Good evening, and welcome back to Destiny. Let's Talk Destiny Talk Show. I'm your host, Jamie Greene, and I am blessed to be with you tonight. And I'm blessed to have with me my baby sister, Kelly Greene Adams, and we're going to talk tonight about our mother. Um, First, I'd like to say that we recognize and we salute all women this month as we recognize Women History Month. I've gone to the place where I'm honoring women who are impacting my life right now, not necessarily historically, but they're impacting my life right now. And my sister Kelly is one of those women who sees me at my worst. Um, and I'm always pulling on her from a therapeutic viewpoint, and she hasn't sent me a bill yet. But um, when I'm on the edge, when I'm feeling like, okay, this is it, I just, the anxiety is too much. She often is the one that I call on to talk me down. And so I want to let her know that I appreciate her publicly while she can hear me, not after she's gone with a whole lot of cards and flowers, but I want to publicly let her know I appreciate her. So again, I'd like to say welcome to Let's Talk Destiny, Kelly Greene Adams.
My pleasure. Yeah, the bill's on its way, so I'm just letting it pile up. Um, One day I'm gonna slap you with a big one, and then you can work out a payment plan.
Wow.
No, I'm excited. Thank you for having me, Jamie. I'm honored out of all the great people that you have on your show that I was able to be a part of this. So I'm definitely honored.
Thank you so much. Also, I would like to remind you to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel under Jamie Greene, A Mother's Cry, Let's Talk Destiny. There are so many magnificent conversations over there that will absolutely bless your life. So you owe it to yourself to subscribe to that channel. And I'm going to try to remember to say that more than once, Kelly.
Thank
So
you.
tonight, tonight we want to talk about our mother. Um, but before we get into that, as I honor you as a woman this month, I want to ask you some questions first before we start talking about mom. Um, as you may know, I'm sure you have known since you've been supporting me for 2 years now. Let's Talk Destiny is a purpose driven format. I like for people to focus on their purpose and pursue their purpose, even when they hit bumps in the road. Don't give up, don't quit. Um, how would you say, in your own words, what would you say is your purpose, and how would you say that you're implementing your purpose?
Wow, that's deep. Um, I would have to say that I believe that the Creator put me on the earth to um, walk alongside of people as they walk their path and to help them understand some of the challenges and things that happen while they're on this path, and to help them find the resources and the supports that they need to fulfill their own destiny. Um, I
Powerful.
would say how I do that is definitely through my therapy and my coaching. Um, and as you know, I'm also a minister. And so through these venues, God puts me in touch with people at different places in their life. And I'm able to meet them where they are, and we can work together to address some of their challenges and how I can help them. So I would say that definitely a flavored life is definitely my the conduit through which I do what I believe I was put on the earth to do.
Po- Powerful. Also, I want to ask you, as a woman, what would you say is your greatest asset?
Wow, a lot of people know me for so many things, but I think because you definitely know me, my greatest asset to me are my children. And I feel like they are just God's way of reminding me that I'm special, because they bring me that kind of joy that nothing else can bring me. Um, no accolades that anybody else could give me or anything mean as much as just having my children. My oldest son is here with me this week. And yesterday, I was just looking at him smiling. He was like, "What are you grinning at me for?" And I'm like, I was like, "I'm just happy to have you here. I'm happy when my boys are here." I, and I won't just say my biological children, Jamie, because there are so many people that God has blessed me to mother, if it's only for a little season of their life. And that I think is the asset, that mothering nature. Um, I think is my greatest asset. And that when I see that working in my children, all of them, biological, foster, run through, spend the night, whatever, all of them.
It's awesome, and it's important. As you were talking, I was thinking it is extremely important for us to know what it is we're supposed to be doing, because it's sad when people live their entire life and they still don't know what it is that they were put here for. They still don't know what their purpose is, and they just are like floundering around with no sense of purpose. And so, this is one of the things that I like to do through this show, is to get people to think about your purpose and find the steps and the resources that you need to pursue that purpose. So again, we're going to get ready to start asking some questions and have a discussion about our Queen Mother. Before we do that, I'd like to remind our audience once again to like the YouTube channel, to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and be blessed by it. Also, if you have any questions or comments, you can feel free to type them in the comment section, and then we'll share them, or I'll share them with my sister, because I don't know if she can see them or not. Um, I want to say that, remind everybody that March 2021, um, I started, I wanted to do something to honor my mom, because March 14th is the day that she transitioned from the physical realm into the ancestral realm. And I wanted to do something that month to honor her that was different. And so I came up with this idea to have other mothers to get together, come on, and just talk about motherhood and what it meant to them and the gift of motherhood, and, how they felt being a mother. At the conclusion of March 2021, my sister said to me, "I think you should continue doing this show." And I was like, "What? Um, I don't think so." And then I mentioned it to my oldest son, and he said, "Oh, absolutely, you should do that, because you have something to say. You have something that people need to hear." So, of course, started giving all the excuses about why I couldn't do it, that I didn't have the setup and I didn't have this and that and the other. And my sister said to me one day, she said, "People don't tune into a show for the bells and whistles and the balloons and the banners. They tune in for the content." I don't know why I'm getting feedback.
No, that's me. I'm so sorry. I was trying to turn it on just to
Oh,
see
okay.
the notifications. I apologize.
Because that happened to me when I was doing Zoom, which is why I tried StreamYard.
You switch.
But so I'm grateful that I'm still here 2 years this month, that I'm still doing this, and still people are saying that they're still blessed by it. And so we're going to continue to do it as long as the Lord gives us strength. So let's talk about the Reverend Dr. Essie Greene. Um, you were her baby girl and her friend, which a lot of people that I talk to don't have that type of relationship with a mother. They respect her as mom, but to actually say she was is my friend is unique. How do you explain to us what your relationship was with mom, like on a friendship level?
Well, interesting. As you know, I was being the youngest, I guess, and I guess she knew she wasn't having any more. We just she coddled me a lot as a baby, growing up, and I know, like I remember things like being 8 years old. I remember this so vividly, and sitting on her lap, at church, and she was actually um, giving me a lifesaver out of her mouth. Like literally, we were mouth to mouth, and she was feeding me this lifesaver. And I'm 8 years old. And my dad was like um, saying something negative, of course, because he was like, he felt I was too big for that. But um, we just were close. And my time goes further and further ahead to so many very important times in my life, when she was the person I felt the closest to share, even the negative. I remember getting pregnant at 17, and she was the first person I told. Um, and I left it to her to tell daddy and all everybody else that needed to know. But she was my friend. I remember when I was married and my son died, and I came home from the hospital and couldn't sleep, and she sat in the floor with me all night. I mean, I remember when I was grown and she would buy me gifts, and my dad would be like, that girl too old to be you worrying about her having an Easter dress. But I just remember, uh, like I hear people, and I say this to people all the time. I remember people that I like. My oldest son is one, that has friends that he's had since elementary school, and like him and this one particular young man, Moran, is like a brother to him. He literally calls him his brother. They have been friends since I can remember, and I remember thinking back over my own life, especially at the end of my of mom's life, and realizing that she was that person for me. I didn't have other friends, as you would say. Like, I mean, I had people that I knew. I had people that I could relate to, but if I go out to lunch, it was with her. If we would go places. If I went to preach, she would come support. If she went to preach, I'd go sing. And we just, everything about our life, our money, everything, we just did everything together. It was like she was truly my friend, who maybe didn't always understand my decisions, but supported me. And I guess I realized how much of a friendship we had when I realized that after she passed away, I really didn't have any real friends. Like, I mean, I had people I knew, but nobody I hung out with. I realized all my hanging out was with her. She was like my friend.
Wow.
So she was like my best friend. And I think the day I realized, when we had finally accepted that she had Alzheimer's and she was changing and evolving into that person, I remember one day I was on my way to work, and I would call dad every day on my way to work. And this particular day I was crying, and he asked me why I was crying. And I said, I missed my mom. And he said, she's right here. And I said, no, she's not. I mean, the person in terms of the physical is there, but the person that would come pick me up, and we would go hang out all day, and we go to eat at a Chinese restaurant, and we ride all the way up to Seaford, that person's not here anymore. And I realized how much of a void that left for me. So I realized that she was not, again, just the mother. She was my best friend.
That's powerful and unique. Carmeletta is joining us, and she commented that she's super proud, and I assume she's talking about us, not herself. No, I'm just playing. But thank you
She could
for
be talking about both because she's actually doing a great weight loss thing. Woo woo for her. And I be thinking I need to be with her, but I'm not eating no cabbage soup for 7 days. So,
no, we're not
and
doing
I
that.
just
But
finished.
thank
Yeah.
you for
So,
joining us, Carmeletta. We love you and appreciate you, friend for many, many, many years.
yes.
Okay, Kelly, let me ask you something else about you and your mother.
Hmm.
What is your funniest memory of mom? Before you tell yours, let me tell mine. As most people that knew mom know about the Alzheimer's at the end of her life, um,
Hmm.
and how she just would begin to act so out of character with regard to things that I think she had been wanting to say for years, and she kept it inside. But then she no longer had the ability to just keep it in. So
Hmm.
one Sunday we were in service, and Daddy was preaching, and everybody that ever heard him preach, he just goes on and on and on. Love him dearly, but it was a tad lengthy. And mom just yells out to the top of her lungs, "Oh my God, I wish he would shut up." That thing just cracked me up. And it cracked me up because no, if you knew mom prior to being sick with Alzheimer's, she never would have done that, even if she was thinking it. But then it just came out of nowhere, and I just couldn't even get myself together. I just thought it was hilarious. So that's my funniest memory.
And it's interesting because most of the funny experiences with mom are around that particular time of her life because she was always very, and I won't say poised in the sense of being prissy, but she was a person who took a lot and didn't really share like how she felt about things because she was always making sure other people were okay. But I remember even like sometimes when I would be talking to her when she was in the early stages, and she would say, did I say that? Well, if I said that, I must be crazy. I said, well, mom, you just said it. But, I think part of the funniness of this experience or the funny parts of the experience were things that would make me go, Essie, what? So, because like one night in particular, I'm sitting at their dining room table and she comes out there and says that the guy in the bedroom wants her to come lay down with him. And my dad, these were her words, your dad would have a fit if he knew I was laying down with this guy. My response to that was, well, just go ahead and lay down with him. I don't think he's going to try anything. I said, and you can leave the door open and I'll just keep walking back and forth. And
Well,
so
all
she
the
went and
time
did it.
it was Daddy in there.
Right. Now, all the time, it is her husband of 50 years. But I think the part that was funniest is that she didn't say she didn't want to lay down with the guy. She didn't say that she was uncomfortable to lay down with the guy. All she said was, your daddy would have a fit. And I'm thinking, my, Essie Greene, like, what? You gonna go lay? If your daddy wasn't gonna have a fit, are you telling me that's where you would go in there and lay down with the guy? That was really like one of the moments I was like, Mom, like I'm seeing a side of you. Like
That is too funny. Yeah.
everybody else thought you was that praying woman, but you're willing to lay with a total stranger. But yeah, that part really, really, really was like, because they say when people have Alzheimer's, their character comes out. So I'm thinking, now my mom went like kind of fast there. You know what I'm
Lucy,
saying? Like,
Lucy. Yeah. She
yeah, but she
wasn't
didn't
all she
say,
wasn't always Pastor Green. She wasn't
come
always
on now. But
Hello.
but I still wanted to think that she had a little bit of more like a stranger as you come lay down. And the only reason you don't lay down is because my dad would have a fit. Like, how about I don't know you? Like, which she
Mom
didn't have
gotta
any
stop
problem
laughing at our mother.
because she didn't have no problem telling him she know him other times. I remember one time he was trying to tell her something to do, and she looked at me and she said, "This is my daughter, and she's the only person that tells me what to do."
Wow. I
I
tell
was
you
like,
what, Mom,
"Okay, I guess."
that whole Alzheimer's thing, like stuff
Yeah,
started coming out of her,
I
like,
tell people. Yeah, I tell people all the time, people's unbridled, unfiltered self does come out during that time, but you also have to recognize that you have to go into their world and not try to bring them back into this world because this is their reality. So when she said she didn't know the guy, one night she woke me up and I was asleep and she said, "There's a guy sitting in that room and he needs to go home because it's getting late." And of course, I knew it was daddy. So I said to her, I said, well, remember we told him that he could stay here tonight because he don't have nowhere to go. And she said, well, if he stay here, tell him to shut up because don't be talking to me. So I have to say this, and I love both of them, and God knows I miss them both. But I'm thinking that all of those years, I think Daddy got on her nerves. But I think she would never say that. So when her Alzheimer's like unfiltered her, she was like, when he would call her, like I never forget when she first started, and one of the first signs is um they lose their sense of smell. So she would be like burning the stuff up, and I'd be like, "Mom, you didn't smell that that was burning?" Because I didn't know at that time that that was one of the signs. But Daddy would always be calling her like, "Essie, get me something to eat" or something like that. And when she started having Alzheimer's, when he would call her name, she said, "My God, I wish he'd get somewhere." So I put all of these times together, when she, like the time she hollered out in church and all of that, and I'm thinking, I think he kind of was getting on her nerves, but she would never say because that's who she was. But when the Alzheimer's took the filter off, she was like, "I wish that man just," because she told me, she said, "He can stay here, but tell him don't talk to me. Shut his mouth." I was like, "Poor daddy."
oh my
But
God,
yeah, I guess.
that is so funny. Yeah. And here's the thing, you said something very important that I want to reiterate, and that is when you're dealing with a person that has dementia or Alzheimer's, you have to stop trying to pull them into your world and walk with them in their world. That was one of
Right.
the greatest frustrations for Daddy, as Mom kept getting worse and worse, because for one thing, he did not want to lose his Essie. And he said
He had
several,
nobody go get his coffee and stuff.
and I remember
That's
him
why she
saying
said,
that he would like to, he was praying that he would wake up in the morning and his Essie would be back. But instead,
mm-hmm,
she was getting worse. And you could see that was wearing on him. Um,
mm-hmm,
but he had a really hard time. I mean, I'm think right up until his dying day, he still had not really accepted the condition that Mom was in because he just didn't want to. But people have to remember, because I see people a lot on social media talking about they have loved ones that all have Alzheimer's, and they may say something that sounds so outrageous, like, and you say to them, you know good and well that's not true. Well, if they knew it wasn't true, they wouldn't say it.
right.
So that's
And,
where,
and
go ahead.
and I was just saying, my mind just went back so many times. I would say to Dad when he would say things like Mom would stand in front of the TV, and he would say, "She know I'm trying to watch TV." I said, "Dad, what she does has nothing to do with you. Like she's not going like, how can I aggravate this man? Because most of the time she don't even know who you are. So she's not really trying to do that." The other part is I kept saying to him, and on one occasion I know he got upset with me because I said to him, you have to accept her for who she is now. You can't always keep going, well, you know, and like, so he said to me, oh, you don't believe God can heal her? I'm not saying he can't. I'm saying, but
Until he
until he
does.
heals her in whatever way he heals her, I have to accept her for who she is. So, one of my greatest times that my son, my baby boy, because he didn't get a lot of time with mom prior to her being well, prior to her getting sick. And one of the greatest funny times we laugh is when we all went to Walmart and we all got out of the car and started walking towards Walmart door. And I looked behind me and mom was walking the other way. And I said, Mom, where are you going? And she said, well, I didn't know where you were going. And my son does it so well. He says, I went, just follow the crowd, Mom. Just follow the crowd. It's like, even if you don't know where we're going, you see everybody going this way. But it was just what those moments, I think, that you look back now and you laugh or whatever, but you realize that it takes a lot. And I was just at a retreat this weekend, and one of the ladies was so well, all of the ladies were transparent, but this one lady who is a caregiver for her husband, and he doesn't have Alzheimer's, he just had a surgery, but she was like, I just needed to get away where I didn't hear my name being called every few minutes. She was like, and everybody was saying, oh, you leaving your husband? And she said, he's well enough to get around now, and I just need, she said, my being here makes it better for him.
Yeah,
And that's what we don't realize as caregivers. If we don't take that time to refresh and to do better, a lot of times the frustration and the wear and tear on us from this caregiver role causes the abuse. It's not that you don't love the person. It's not that you don't want to be there, but sometimes it's a lot and you just feel like I just need a break. So knowing that, giving yourself that will help you to be a lot more patient and a lot more
absolutely.
understanding.
Absolutely. Okay, so let me ask you this. Name a characteristic that you think you inherited from mom.
Oh my.
You tell me that
Wow.
I act
I
like
mean,
mom when it comes.
everybody says I look like her, but I really feel like I have more of the character of my father. But I guess
It's got to be
taking
one
in
characteristic you got for Essie.
I think taking people in, because I look back over my life and I mean, I think of the number of people that like have lived with me for brief times. And I remember that about our parents, and mom probably would have more people if daddy didn't say no. But because I didn't have anybody that would tell me no, I just, I mean, literally, at one time I had two girls there with newborn babies that were like 1 day apart, and like and I've had I've just countless number of people live with me, and that part of caring for people is definitely a mom quality versus a dad quality. Not that he didn't care
Absolutely.
for people, but
Because it
mom
was
was
funny
a
because I said that daddy would do what he do in the church, give whatever. But when that was over, he didn't want to be bothered. And I
right.
think that's what one of the things I get from daddy. Like I could stay in this house for days at a time and never interact with people outside of social media or on the phone, and I'm fine with that. Mom and Sib and you were more like wanting to be around people more. And
You know what's funny though, Jamie? I think the funny part is I like to be alone, but I like to help people. So it was funny because I was talking to Kevin, like one of the ladies from our church was having trouble with her heat and needed a place to stay. And I didn't want to like not give her a place to stay because that's who I am. But we had to make it clear, I'm not your friend. We not This is not a girlfriend hangout, spend the night together. You have a place to stay, the food, help yourself, whatever. But most of my time when I'm home, I'd like to be alone. And so I think I got that I like to be alone thing from daddy, but I'm gonna help you. But that doesn't make us buddies. Like mom, like I think about my husband who's the type of person that when you think of the difference between an introvert and an extrovert, my son Kevin is an extrovert. He may think he's an introvert because he's quiet most of the time. But the question is not what the question about introvert and extrovert is, where do you draw your strength? Where do you draw your strength? And I draw my strength being alone. I My creative juices come when I'm alone. My rejuvenating comes from being alone. My
Right, right.
spiritual growth comes from being alone. Whereas some people, and mom, Sib, and Kevin, are those social people who get their energy from positive people that they know and they hang out with. But the problem for me, like I said earlier, is that because I was that person, when that person that I hung out with died, then I had nobody. Like Kevin has people, like, like I said, like he's got friends that he's had since he was a little boy, and he can never meet a stranger right now. Like I interact with people every day, all day, but there is not anybody that I work with or that I've worked with, even that I can say we've actually gone out to dinner, that we've nothing. It's like once I have a work relationship with you or a church relationship with you, it's compartmentalized. You don't get to come to the house. So um that's where I feel like me and mom are different. Like I love to help people, like, but I'm not that social person that I'm gonna help you and then me and you will sit around and talk all day. Mm-mm,
It's like
no
mom, I
way.
don't care where you went, she was always had to
Mm,
talk to people. Like I'm
yeah.
thinking to myself, do you even know these people? Come on, let's go. But that's
When I
just
used to when I first started singing, like at the point where I was singing and traveling and singing for a living, like people were paying me. One of the girls said to me one day, she said, "Can I say something to you?" And I said, "Sure." She goes, "You're gonna have to smile more." And I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "When people approach you and they come up to you, you kind of give them this like, 'Hi, nice to meet you,' and then you just cut it right off." She was like, "But people want to feel like they're a part of what's going on with you." And so I learned how to practice that public side of me. And the danger for me was coming home, and I want to throw that public side off, but that means that the people here that I live with also get nothing, because it's like I'm tapped out with the fake public side, with the side that's always grinning. "Hey, how are you? Good to see you. Great. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, God bless you. Thank you." Then when I'm go home, I'm like, "Listen, don't talk to me. Nobody talk to me."
and it's funny, like
Um,
as you were talking, I was thinking about one of the things about mom was like, even if somebody walk up to her and say, "Hey, Pastor Green, you know I am," and she'd be like, "What's your name again, baby?" Like she trying to act like she know who it is, but she forgot their name, but she really don't have a clue. So I was reminded of that. It was before COVID. I went to a basketball game with my son, and this guy walks up to me and he says, "Hey, Miss Jamie, do you remember me?" And I said, "No, I don't." And the person sitting behind me said, "Oh my God, you did not have to say that like that." And I didn't mean it. Like I wasn't trying to be mean or anything. I just don't know who he is. And when I looked up in his face, he looked so sad. I was like, "But where should I know you from?" Then I felt bad. Then come find out he knew the family when we lived out Rock and Walking Ridge Road, and he, hung out with Byron for a while. Blah blah blah. So we were laughing about that the other day because I was sharing that story with Byron about how I thought about mom. I should have did the mom thing instead of just saying No, I don't know you are. And he
My
said that.
thing is, I'm sorry, but I guess my thing when people say, "Do you remember me?" I think if I had remembered you, you would know that. So that's my first thing. Like, if you want to introduce yourself or you want to talk to me, just do that. Like, and I guess because I don't know if I shared this with you, but I went to this church and I preached, and the next year they called me to come back. And the lady that called me and asked me to come back was like, I was at the church last year, and this year I guess she was on the committee, and they wanted me to come back, and she was like, do you remember me? Now I'm talking to you on the phone. It's been a year. I met you one time. I said, no, I don't think so. She goes, and she tells me what she had on. So I said, no. And she tells me what I said to her when I was ministering to her. And I said, no. She's like, are you sure? Because you said this. And I'm like, I really, and I try to give the spiritual version and say, well, when the Lord gives me a word for people, I really don't try to retain it. That was your word. I'm glad you were blessed. But you said my husband was da 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 da. And she went on and on. And I'm like, I don't remember. I'm thinking, am I getting a date or not? Because I mean, at this point, I'm like, okay. Jamie, I
Carmeletta,
went
come
to
get
that
your friend.
church.
Come get your friend.
I went to that church. When I walked in the door, sat down in the pulpit, this woman comes up to me and says, do you remember me now? I'm thinking, oh, for God's sake, when you let it go, I don't remember you.
Are you that much in need of attention, sis? What is
Right.
it?
What is
Oh
it
my
so
God.
important? I said I don't remember you. I said I don't remember you like 5 times. And you still. But you
This
know
is
what?
what's
The
funny
Lord
to
helped
me
me.
is the people that come up to me in the store and say, do you know who I am? No, I don't know who you are, honey. And they say, I used to go to your parents' church when I was a little girl. Okay. First of all, I'm 61 and so you probably around the same age as I am. And do you honestly think I remember every person that came to that church when they was a little girl? But the James Greene in me wants me to say, child, how in the world am I supposed to remember that far? But the Essie Greene says, well, sweetie, a lot of people came through that ministry, so no, I don't remember you.
I think I think we have a combo. And you know yourself that most of my demeanor has been to be like daddy, especially around ministry. And I feel like you were the mom to my daddy. Like, because though you had this like you might say this roughness on the outside, you were very tenderhearted and compassionate towards people. Where I was like, hey, it is what it is. And I don't really think about, I think we talked about this before um, in terms of like tasks. So I see people as a means to get our tasks done. And sometimes that makes me insensitive to the fact that people have life and sometimes they can't get things done when I think they should be done or whatever. And I had to remember that. And I'd say, I think that's where I'm not like mom in so many in that, but I think the part where if a person has a need, I definitely will try to do everything in my power to help them, even to my own detriment, which I do think I get from mom because I remember so many times saying to her that she shouldn't do that. And she kept saying, the Lord knows my heart. And I was like, yeah, he does. And he gave you what the resources to take care of your own business instead of giving it away. But now I'm that same person. And it's funny because my baby boy is that same person to some degree. He not as much, but he's like lately I've noticed he'll be like, oh, I gave so and so this and so on. I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, because like I think he's softening up a little bit.
Well, his
I
Aunt
think it's
Jamie better
that
call him up if he's in the giving mood.
listen, hit it, but you gotta hit him when like he still ain't gonna go in that safe. But he if he got it in his checking account, you might be able to get it.
That's funny. And I was also thinking, as talking about mom, I was thinking about the time when we were in the mall, and you may not even remember because it amazes me the things I do remember and the things I can't remember. But we were in the Salisbury Mall over near the food court, and this lady, I don't remember how the conversation started, but she started talking about Pastor Essie Greene. And you were saying, she was talking to you, she recognized who you were, and you turned and said, and this is my sister Jamie. And I don't remember every word she said, but she was adamant that I was not Pastor Essie Green's daughter. She said, I've known Pastor Greene for years, and I know her children, and she is not one of them. And I was thinking to myself, she said she knew Sylvia and she knew you. And I was thinking to myself, how can you know the oldest and the baby and not know the one in the middle? And I was even like, first I was like, had an attitude like, I really don't even care if you know me, so I'm not even whatever. But then because it's not the first time it happened. And then if I say I'm the one that played drums, some people will say, oh yeah, I remember you. That's all they knew me by was drums. But this chick was adamant that I was not Essie Green's daughter. And I was like, oh, well, bye.
Well, you and I know two things that most people, if they knew us, they know me and you and not Sib. That's most of the time because Sylvia was older. She married and went away like while we were still growing up. The other part is that people see me and you and don't know the difference.
Yeah,
You know
that's the
yourself.
truth.
I've had people come up to me and say, "Hey, Jamie, how's Kelly?" And I'm like, "She's good. She just had a baby. Yeah, she's good."
That is true.
So you
That is
know
true.
how. That's why I used to tell my husband when he would say, you know so and so, and I was like, no, I don't think so. Well, they know you. I said, no, they don't know me. They just know who I am. I said, and I'm not even sure of that because they may know that I'm one of Reverend Green's daughters, but they probably don't know me. And even if they know my me by sight because of my name, that doesn't
Yeah.
mean I know them, and that is definitely doesn't mean they know me. Because again, I had one friend, and that was my mom. So it wasn't like I had a lot of friends. So when people said
Because
they
when
know
we
me,
used to
like,
walk in the building, people would say, that's Reverend Green's daughter, that's Reverend Green. But most of them didn't know which one the name was. I've told this story several times and had people falling out laughing because I started playing drums when I was 5. And so I played, for a long time. And then when daddy would go places and do revivals and stuff, when I walk in out here, got people say, that's the drummer girl, that's the drummer girl. And then guys would be like wanting to be my boyfriend, right? And this was like 12, 11, 12, somewhere around that. And our concept of boyfriend was like, I see you at church. That's about it. And because James and Essie wasn't having that. So I used to tell them if they want to be my boyfriend, they had to bring me candy or bring me something. Like, how are you going to say you're my boyfriend? You don't ever give me nothing. And so I remember we were down in Snow Hill at the Masonic Hall doing a revival. And I was playing the drums, and then whatever, after church, this guy comes up to me and gives me this candy. And then he said, now I'm your boyfriend. And I said, what's my name? He didn't even know my name. I just snatched the candy and walked right off. And I had an attitude about that for the longest time because
that's
all you
funny.
know is my gift. You don't even know my name, but you want to be my boyfriend. Get away.
And that's a whole nother conversation because I tell people all the time, part of the reason why, I mean, I want to be with a man who loves God, but I never wanted to be with a man who like went to church with me because I want you to get to know me and then we can go to church together because I don't want you just like going for the fish and the loaves, like because like, oh, I'm a singer, I'm a preacher, whatever, and oh yeah, so you just like this, they want to attach to you, like you said, because you play the drums or whatever. So it's funny because when I married Christian's dad, he didn't know I could sing. And we were married, and I was in the shower singing. And he came in there, he said, "You got the radio on?" I was like, "No." He said, "That's you singing?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You can sing like that?" I was like, "But I didn't want you to like me for my gift. I want you to like me for me." You know what I mean? So I think that was one of the things, though, that mom was a person. And I was telling this at this conference this weekend. I said, what is wrong with a lot of our young men and women is they do not feel like they are enough. I said, my parents were maybe, in somebody's opinion, not the best parents, but they were great parents to me because one of the things that they gave me was that I was enough. Like, I might not be the best looking, I might not be the richest, I might not be the prettiest, I might not be the skinniest, I might not have so many, but I'm enough. And I don't, they validated us enough that I didn't feel, and I guess that's why the relationship I had with mom was so sufficient. Like, I didn't need other people. I mean, I had somebody to laugh with, to talk with. Man, I don't know if you remember that I just had a flashback on that movie, um, Bye Bye Birdie. And it was like one boy to laugh with, to joke with, have coke with one boy. Oh yeah. So when I was saying that, my mom, I mean, it was just like she was just like that person. And I know she did it for me, but I'd seen her do it for so many other people. Like be that person that people felt like in the field that I'm in. I love to use the word safe with, because I feel like when people feel safe and they can trust you, they'll show you their heart. And I think so many people, and what I do love, and I think the other part about the dynamic of parents and friendships, I wasn't really friends with my dad until I was a lot older. And I say this to people, like, to me, that was a great moment because I knew he was a great dad. But when he started sharing his heart with me about things, we became friends. And I know sometimes we would have arguments because I would say, "Now, do you want me to tell you my opinion, or you just want me to say yes to what you just said?" And I think that was one of the things, the epiphany came to me, that part of the reason why him and I struggled is because we were so much alike. And mom was that buffer always. um Even when I was 16 and I was like, I want to date Wayne Roberts. Oh, I guess you shouldn't say people's names on here, but I went to my dad and I was like, "Hey, I want this guy to come over," and he was like, "Absolutely not." And I heard mom tell him as I was leaving the room, she said, "Well, Kelly. Now we can bring him here and at least we can see what's going on. Or she gonna see him anyway, because we had cars at 16. So you weren't gonna stop me because my will was strong." Um, and mom just always, I can hear her even now saying, "Honey." Now honey. Like he would say things like even about people at the church and stuff like that. She was that buffer. And I tell people all the time, I don't know if, the church would have been as successful or thriving as it was without her being there as that buffer.
Absolutely.
Because
I
he
totally
was,
agree with that. And I want to back up for a minute because whenever we talk about mom and dad, and if anybody has any comments or questions, please feel free to write him in. Um, thank you for joining us. Um, Whenever we mention mom or dad, people always talk about what a great preacher they were, uh, how she really, could sing and this, that, and other. But they weren't always pastor and apostle Greene. And because we know them as mom and dad, we know them in a different arena than even those who call them their spiritual parents would know them. But I want to talk for a minute about uh, the Essie Greene that was singing in the nightclub, when she met the Air Force person, and how they connected because she was singing in a group. Tell that
Well,
story.
what's funny is when you were telling that is I remember one time being told, and I can't remember which one of them told me, but I was an adult when they shared this, that um, mom had big, pretty legs, and that's what daddy attracted daddy to her. But he actually was supposed to be seeing Miss Peaches, who was mom's best friend. So he was coming to this club they were all singing together, but he was coming to see Miss Peaches. But when he saw mom and her pretty legs, he you know, things happen. Glory to God. Um, so I remember like, them telling stories about, before they were Christians and they were dating and um they weren't married, but they were together and daddy would come over and she was staying with my mom and them, and then like it would be time getting late and my mom would just come and put the ironing board up right in the middle of the room where they were sitting and just start doing the ironing while they was trying to like court. That was her sign. What's funny was as time went on, I remember when Wayne started coming to the house, a lot of times him and dad would sit up and watch sports. And then when the sports went off, daddy would go to bed and he'd give me like maybe 15, 20 minutes that me and Wayne could hang out. And then I'd hear him go, Kelly. And I'd go down there and say, yes, sir. He'd be time for that boy to go home. So it was the same thing as putting up the ironing board. It was like, okay,
Exactly.
it's over. And it's funny because I was like, just because my mom put a ironing board on you, like you trying to put the ironing board up on me. But they just like the stories like they would tell and about, just their dating and their experience and before,
And we never
they
did
got
find
married.
out, because they both told total opposite stories about who chased who. Because daddy was saying mom was chasing him around like a little puppy. And then mom would say, honey, you the one that was chasing me around. So they went to the grave and we still don't know
Listen,
who's telling the truth.
Daddy's claim to fame was I bought you out of the country, and when I met you, everything you had could fit in a trash bag or a brown paper bag. It wasn't even no trash bag. He talking about
Brown
I
paper
made
bag.
out of you. Yeah. And mom be like, sure, you ain't made nothing of me. I was fine for you. He said, yeah, that's why you came running behind me. But I kind of got the feeling that your dad did the pursuing. Now, now that though with mom, that's what I had thought all those years. But then after mom told me the incident about the guy in the room that she was gonna go lay down with, I'm not so sure if Essie wasn't going after him herself. I mean, he was a sergeant in the Air Force, and I tell you
You
what,
know
I
what they
find
say about the men in those uniforms?
back, especially back then. But I think what
Especially
was
coming
really
off Concord Road in Seaford. Like, I mean, that was the most exciting thing she probably had seen in a long time was the man in the uniform on the Air Force base.
I tell you what was funny too was
Bless her heart.
I think just the whole idea, like she said, even like after they were together and they got into, an altercation, which I could see that from your father's side. No, I'm just kidding. Um, but not kidding. Like Reese, sorry, but not sorry. Um, and she says she went down to your grandmother's house to kind of she was trying to get away from him and it started getting late and your grandmother said it's time for you to go home and she said, oh, I thought I would stay here tonight. She said, no, you ain't staying here tonight. She said, you gonna go back on home. And I remember mom telling me this story. She was like, I just couldn't believe that my mom would like not let me stay like home. And it's funny because again, when I got married um to Latan and we had an argument and I went to the house and I was sitting out there talking to mom and Daddy called me in the room. He said, where Latanya at? I said, he's at the house. He was like, well, what you doing out here this time of night? Because it was late. And I said, I was talking to mom. He said, it's getting late. You think you need to go on home? I said, I don't know if I'm going back over there. Daddy said, sure. And turned right over and went to sleep. Jamie, what about the times when they put the wrinkle on the door? Now that, my friend, is funny.
All right, Carmeletta, we got a joke, a story, a funny story for you before we get ready to go.
But let me
One
just say
time,
this first. When I lived there as an adult, and I used to go to the club and turn off the car and let it ease up into the driveway on the stones and then creak in the house. I'd creak all the way around to my bedroom. And they was on separate ends of the house. And soon as I closed that door, I could hear mom's feet coming down the thing. Your daddy said, I was like, oh, for the Lord's sake. But the funniest story is when I turned 18, I was like, I'm out of here, man. Cause I can't be me. I moved. And I remember you and Sid were living in Rhode Island.
no, no,
And
I think I was in DC. Sip was living at the house.
no, neither one of y'all were living there, I didn't think. But anyway, I know y'all was coming back there, and I was going to my house. So we all went our separate ways. A little while later, I heard a knock on my door, or a call or something. Y'all were like, Daddy had put the he called it the wrinkle, which was the lock on the
Child,
screen
somebody,
door.
I think I was living in DC because I remember coming home for the weekend and I had my rent money
But
with
I
me.
think
That's why I
yeah,
remember.
but I thought Sibby
And
came home for the weekend too.
we went to somebody's house party. I know whose house it was, but I don't want to say their name. And
Yeah, don't say names.
and got all drunk and everything, and got back to the house. And Daddy had put that little chain on there, what he called a crinkle on there.
The
And
lock on the screen door too.
yep, and he cracked the door open. He said, "Wherever you've been," it was like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and he said, "Wherever y'all been all this time, you can go spend the rest of the night because you're not coming up in here this time of night." And closed the door right in our face. And I remember, I think we had to go to a hotel room. We called you.
You
I
ended
think
up going to the hotel.
because
That's
I
because
remember
you
being
called
mad
me.
because I had to use some of my rent money to pay for a hotel.
That's because you can't come up in the reverend's house late.
But see, nowadays these young people, they don't respect their parents like that, and the parents don't make them respect because they just doing everything in the parents' house.
Well, he had told me when I was living there as an adult, he was like, I don't care what you do, but Sunday morning, everybody right here goes to church. I don't care if you just getting in at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, we have prayer and we going to church. So I would go out to the club and whatever. So then mom said, when I kept coming up in the driveway, turning off the car, mom said, Daddy said, because they had them stones. So I turned off the car and let it
Trying
drift
to
up
be quiet.
and still got caught. Well, your dad is so I was the baby, so I felt like I think there were things I would say to get away with. So I said, now, mom, I'm grown. He can't have it both ways. Now, if I stay out all night, he said I can't stay out all night. But if I'm not in here by 12, he said gonna put the wrinkle on the door. The party ain't even over till 2. I'm not coming home at no 12 o'clock. So he'd rather, I think, for me to come home when I was like, so he know I'm home safe. So he let me come home. But I said there, he would tell in a minute, I'm gonna put that wrinkle. It ain't no wrinkle, it's a lock.
Don't talk about my daddy. But yeah, I just think about stories like that, and because like I said, most people when you mention them, they talk about is the pastor and the apostle and the pastor, but they weren't always pastors and apostles. And
Even when they were pastor and apostle during those years, they were still parents. And I think
right,
like later as daddy, like especially near the end, one of the things that broke his heart He said to me one day, he said, I feel like I sacrificed my family for ministry because a lot of things I didn't know and understand. And I was taught to put ministry first. So I always put that before you guys. So only time we went on family vacations was if we were going somewhere they were running revival. And then we might got to go somewhere in the middle of the day, but we had to be ready for church that night. Um, and what's interesting, Jamie, and what's also sad is that in the years that I was married, like I heard the same thing from my family. Like the only time we would ever go anywhere was if I had to sing at a conference or if I had to preach at a conference. And even if I didn't have to preach every night, like I would go like the night before, and that was our little fun time. Like we could just go and then we can go out to dinner. But anybody, that's not a real vacation.
I remember
So
Daddy
I think
telling us that he was going to take us to St. Augustine, Florida, which is where
I
he
thought
was
about
from.
that the other day.
Like through my whole childhood and adulthood, and we never got there.
And then he would get mad with people when they would take their families places. So when I got older and we became friends, I would say, how you mad with them because they doing stuff with their family? People have a right, remember, and I think about I always think about when I took Christian swimming and he needed me and he asked you where I was and you said, I think she took Christian to swimming practice or something. And he was talking about they over there doing that mess when I need her here with her mom.
Yeah,
I just feel like, and that's one of the things I said I didn't want to do. And that's why, like this year, my baby boy will be 21 years old. And I told like them if I have to go by myself, I'm gonna make sure we have a family vacation this year and we're gonna go wherever he wants to go to San Diego. So
that's nice.
but yeah, that definitely but I think the other part that people don't know is that daddy was a provider even long before he was just a pastor. And he would talk about the different kinds of jobs he took and coming out of the military and working with my mom, with our mom's family, um, doing concrete, something he'd never done before. Like
Yeah,
he would like, I wasn't used to that. Going to the working at the hospital and changing bedpans. And these are things he had never done, but whatever it took to be a provider for his family,
that's
that
right.
whatever it took to make sure. I tell people if we were poor, we didn't know it because my father did so good at protecting us. I don't remember going to bed hungry. I don't remember not having clothes and shoes. And I don't, none of that. Now, it could have been our case. I didn't even know that at one point our parents were evicted from a house. They did it so subtly and so smooth. I didn't know we were evicted until years later when mom was talking to me about that. So it's just like there was so much about them as parents, um, as human beings, just great friends. And I think about like the people that daddy was friends with, Mr. Handy and Mr. Russell and all of those guys that he could just be James Greene.
Yeah,
He didn't have to be the Reverend. He could be himself. And I think that's the balance that a lot
yeah.
of times people miss because they're only one sided. And he learned that maybe a little late in life, but he did. So remember when he used to go golfing,
Yeah.
and remember when he used to every Friday night go up to the sale and come back with these
Up there in
subs,
Laurel
and
at the fleet at that auction,
he
that Friday night
he
auction.
go to the auction and he come back with these subs, and he made sure Mother Hall and Sister Jones got a sub, but he also would got like I said they don't bring no more stuff back here, just whatever he could pick up. But it was
Boxes.
just outings, and I think he came to realize that there is life outside of church. So I'm glad he got to know that, like, and play golf and things. And I still think of him whenever I think of golf. Like we're going away this to for Ruach to Lancaster, and it has an 18-hole golf course. And one of my things on my bucket list is I want to learn to play golf.
Oh wow, cool. All right, well, we're getting ready to wind this up, but it really helped me to be able to have this conversation because, as I shared yesterday on my social media page, um, some years when I'm hearing a feedback. Some years when I hear the anniversary of daddy's death or mom's death, it hits real hard, like it just happened. Other years it doesn't hit as bad. This year I've really been struggling with coming up on mom's death, like remember specific words and feelings and everything that happened the day that she had that massive heart attack, and literally close my eyes and see when we walked in the house and saw her lying in the floor, like all of that just so vividly. And so I needed to have this conversation with someone that knows Essie Greene as a mother, as a woman, and as a friend. And I knew it couldn't be anybody else but you. And as we're winding down, let me ask you the one last question. How has the way that you grieve, because I personally believe that you never stop grieving for a person that you love. And I think that your your grief is in direct correlation to your love and relationship with that person. That's why when people make general statements like if your mom dies because you just lost well, everybody doesn't feel that way because everybody didn't have that relationship with their mother. Some people could care less, but I think that you will grieve forever as long as you're in this physical body. But how would you say the way you grieve, that mom is no longer physically here with us, has changed over the years?
I feel like the emotion of tear or the reaction of tears. Um, these last 2 days have been very hard for me as well. Um, but I've learned how to process. Um, I allow myself to cry if I want to cry. I don't, but if I don't, if I feel sad, I allow myself to have that feeling. And I would say that's changed because in the past, I used to like have a few tears and then hurry up and do like, okay, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, so I can move on to something else. Um, but I've allowed myself now to sit with memories, to sit with my sadness. And whereas, I'm a real private person, um, I also will share it. Like today, I shared with a couple people today. Like when they said, "How are you feeling?" I said, "I'm sad. Today's the anniversary of my mom's death." And they were like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "I understand that, but I'm just sharing how I feel. I'm not sharing it for sympathy. I'm sharing it because you asked how I feel." So, hey, Cheryl. I was like, "Yeah, that's how I feel. I feel, and I feel like you will never stop grieving. You have to find ways to memorialize, but you also have to give yourself that space. Every day is not a good day. And sometimes it's not even around the anniversary. There are times when I have great decisions to make. And normally I would talk to my mom and I'm like, man, I miss you because I don't know what to do right here. Like, so I try to sit with conversations that we've had or wisdoms that she's given me, nuggets that she shared. I quote some of her nuggets. Like, sometime when I don't feel like being bothered, my mom's like, I hear mom say it don't cost you nothing to be nice. And I'd be like, okay, Kelly, pull yourself together, like, so I feel like what's helped me over the years is to allow myself to have those moments, however long I feel like they need to be, um, and be honest and transparent about my grief.
Yeah. All right. And I just, as we are really bringing this to a close, like you can tell people that are preachers or raised by preachers because they close like 10 times before they actually close.
Daddy said, "How many doors are there to that sermon?"
But I was just thinking about one of the things that we always did as a family, and a lot of people would not they didn't like it, whatever. But a lot of people, we closed ranks around our parents when they were sick. Um, and a lot of people would get offended by that because they felt that they had a right to all of them, to every part of them. And we didn't allow that. And I think that protecting them, some things people didn't need to see, hear, or know, um, taught us the value, how to really even more value them, because we cherished them in their weakest times. When daddy was sick and could not even get out of the bed without our sons helping him. When mom couldn't clean or bathe herself or feed herself. We didn't just let everybody see that. And I think that that is one of the ways that we honored them. And we will continue to honor them because this legacy does continue. Your phone is in front of the screen. This
All
legacy
right.
does continue. So we're going to continue honoring them in whatever way that we can. What did Carmeletta say?
She was saying that's what I was trying to respond to that. She was saying that she used to like do it in private, but then when she would go to work, she would just tell people to tread lightly. And I think that's okay to say. Like it's okay to say, today like is not a good day for you to be cutting up. Like I tell my kids like sometimes when they're like I didn't take my medicine. And I said, I didn't take mine either. So we gonna have a time today because you don't feel like it and I don't feel like it either. So like, what's it gonna be? And I think just saying that even today, like people don't know how to take your transparency. Um, but I always encourage people to just, be true to you, to thine own self, be true. And if I'm having a bad day, I'm having, I'm having a moment and I need people to be sympathetic to that. And that's okay. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, Essie Clementine Greene, um,
Wow. You didn't put my mom's whole government
the
out
whole
there.
government out there, was a gem. And she continues to impact lives, even though she's no longer here in this physical realm. I still hear her, as my sister said, I can hear some of the sayings that she used to say. I can hear a song and hear her voice singing a song. So she's still impacting our lives and guiding us and directing us. And we will never cease to honor her. If I ever get to the place where I cannot remember things or whatever the case may be, um, I want people to remember how much I loved people and how much I cared and wanted to help people like my mother did. And so this is one of the ways that I choose to honor her and to carry on her legacy from my part. So again, I thank my sister Kelly, Kelly Lynn Greene. I'll just say Adams,
Yes, that's just say Kelly Lynn Green. That's who I will always be.
for joining me in this conversation. Again, thank you all for who you have joined us. If you were late getting in, you feel free to play the video back and listen. I'd love for you guys to share, like, and share the video. Show us that support by sharing the video. There are some gems on in the conversation that Kelly and I had that will bless your life. Also, remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel. There are so many. I think there's like almost 200 videos over there now, I think, um, from this last 2 years of conversations that I know for a fact will bless your life. Also, again, thank you for celebrating with me tonight, Kelly. I made it 2 years. Can you believe it?
We look forward to two more and 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 two.
All righty then.
That's enough.
That's enough.
That's enough.
Uh,
That's like
All right,
20 more
Cheryl, thank
years.
you so much for sharing. I really appreciate you more than I can even say. All right,
Thank
Kelly, any
you.
final words?
Just listen. Like people always say, you only get one mom, but that's not always true. Sometimes God blesses you with people who are motherly to you. But whatever the case may be, like the person that brought you into this world, just cherish them, um, and spend whatever time you can spend with them, good, bad, or ugly, and allow yourself to always remember the good and the bad, but try to remember the good and celebrate and memorialize.
All right. Again, thank you so much, everyone who joined in. Those who will be watching, after we finish, I appreciate each and every one of you. And I look forward to being back Thursday evening. I have another guest to share this month, um, Thursday evening at 7 o'clock. So I will see you then. Thank you so much. You pray for me, and I'll pray for you. God bless you.